Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Blue Bounty Hunter channel. Now, have you noticed the new Stormtrooper design from the Bad Batch? If so, you're probably wondering how the Empire went from that to the classic bad aiming soldiers we know and love that were first introduced in the original trilogy. Well, in this video, I'll be breaking down every change the Emperor made to his army, starting from the Phase 1 Shinies straight off Kamino to even the First Order troopers that reigned after the days of the Empire. And I'm actually going to start off with the Phase 1 clone troopers. The clone army of Kamino was created by Chancellor Palpatine, also known as Darth Sidious, who was undercover to provide the Republic with an army to fight against the Separatists, which in turn would create a war to distract the Jedi. And Master Sifo Dyas ordered the army, which used the bounty hunter Jango Fett as a template for a clone army. When the Jedi strike team sent to rescue Obi-Wan Kenobi was outnumbered and surrounded by the Separatists at the Petronki Arena on Geonosis, Yoda arrived with the Phase 1 clone troopers to reinforce the battle. This catastrophic event would be known as the Battle of Geonosis. The Clone Wars lasted for 3 years from 22 BBY till 19 BBY, and the Phase 1 troopers were used for the first year or so of the war. The armor had similarities to Mandalorian armor with its T-shaped visor that it would later become famous for, and it makes sense that they would want to kind of model it off of the Mandalorians, as they were a very powerful and infamous warrior race in the galaxy. The armor was apparently uncomfortable due to the Kaminoans' inexperience towards human anatomy and ergonomics. The armor was made of a lightweight plastoid alloy composite and was made up of 20 individual pieces that surrounded a black body glove that could briefly protect troopers from the vacuum of space, which you can actually see multiple times throughout the Clone Wars, such as when Plo Koon's troopers fight off the battle droids in space, and it could also briefly protect them from extreme temperatures, whether hot or cold. For a brief time during Phase 1, colors on the armor were actually used to show rank, but this was quickly replaced when color started to be used to show Legion and Independence. What I mean by this is basically Jedi and other personnel could kind of identify their commanders and captains really quickly just due to their customization of their armor. And the armor was customizable with other additions like pauldrons, visors, and or macro binoculars, and the helmet had a comlink life support system and a tracking device. It's no wonder the clones were superior to the battle droids considering all the tech they had. I mean, it almost makes you feel bad for the droids. Almost. But now that I've gone over sort of the initial phase of clone troopers, I'll actually be going into the Phase 2 clone troopers. But like I said, the Phase 1 armor only lasted about a year, and in 21 BBY, the armor was slowly replaced by the Phase 2 armor, which had been tested by the Advanced Recon Commandos, or ARC troopers for short. The new armor was more comfortable, durable, and allowed for better adjustments for specialty troopers. Also, with this new armor, all clone legions start to be identified by different colors that covered their armor. For example, blue for the 501st, orange for the 212th, and camo for the 41st Elite Legion. And obviously I could go into all of these as there is a bunch, but I'm pretty sure you guys know most of them anyways, so yeah. While the armor was lighter and more durable, it also cost much more than Phase 1 at a total of 3,000 credits per suit, which was much heavier than the cost of Phase 1 armor, which was just 2,000 credits per suit. When the Empire started in 19 BBY after Order 66, when the clones followed the order to kill all the Jedi in the galaxy, the clones would be used for many more years, even until 16 BBY, when they were then slowly moved out to be replaced by the next trooper in town. And speaking of which, now that I've gone over all the different clone variants, we'll actually be moving into what you saw in the thumbnail of this video, as well as what I was talking about at the beginning of the video, which is of course the Generation 1 Stormtroopers from the most recent Bad Batch episodes that were also known as TK Troopers. And when Governor Tarkin, as well as Admiral Rampart decided that the cost of clones was not efficient, they then started Project War Mantle to start deploying conscripted non-clone soldiers to use instead of the costly clones. After a meeting with Lama Su, the Prime Minister of Kamino, Rampart put Crosshair, the only loyal member of Clone Force 99 left, in charge of 4 of the first Stormtroopers, where their first mission was to wipe out Saw Gerrera's rebels on the moon of Onderon, as well as the traitorous civilians that were helping them. The trooper, ES-01, was executed by Crosshair after refusing to kill unarmed civilians. But other than that, the mission was a success, which led to 1,000 recruits being trained at a facility on Darrow under veteran clone commandos like Gregor, who actually ended up quitting and was then held at that facility. These first generation Stormtroopers, or TK Troopers as I mentioned earlier, that was actually their official name, and they were used throughout the first years of the Empire. They also had similar armor to the Phase 2 Clone Troopers, but with a different single visor that was not T-shaped like previous models. The summit of the helmet contained a raised ridge that went from the visor to the back of the helmet. The DC-15A blaster carbine was the standard blaster used by these troopers. But now that I've briefly touched on the TK troopers from the Bad Batch, I'll actually be going into the standard Stormtroopers you know quite well from Star Wars. And eventually, sometime after 16 BBY, the Phase 2 clones and TK troopers were replaced by the new and improved Stormtroopers, which would be used by the Empire from the dark times that Obi-Wan mentioned in A New Hope till the destruction of the Empire at the Battle of Jakku. The advantages of the Stormtroopers was that they were not nearly as costly as the former troopers, as they were volunteered, and they also had a nearly endless amount of troopers as they came from all corners of the galaxy. The standard troopers carried an E-11 medium blaster rifle and were named Stormtroopers after the storm of galactic history. So good luck figuring that one out. The troopers were infamous for their poor aim, which was caused by their lackluster helmets, which were hard to see through. And this is kind of where they get the name Bucket Heads from the animated series Star Wars Rebels, which I would actually recommend seeing as it is quite a good show. Many different specialty troopers were made to enforce the Empire in specific situations, such as the Sand Trooper, which fought on desert planets such as Tatooine, also the Snow Trooper, which was created for operations on freezing ice planets such as Hoth, and also the Scout Trooper, which was an advanced trooper for intel missions that often came equipped with a speeder bike for fast escapes. The specialty troopers also included shore troopers, range troopers, patrol troopers, death troopers, and even dark troopers. Obviously there's a bunch more I could mention, but I do not plan on doing that in this video. The Empire had a large navy of Star Destroyers and TIE fighters that were manned by pilots and officers alike. The Stormtrooper armor was made up of a similar material to the clone suits before them that were in some cases actually recycled for the new Stormtrooper variants. While the armor protected the troopers from mild blaster fire and extreme weather, it also made running even harder with the plated material and was no use against blunt weapons too. But to finish off the video, I'm actually going to go into what happened to the armor of these troopers, as well as the troopers themselves after the Empire. And when the Empire was defeated at the Battle of Jakku in 5 ABY, which stands for after the Battle of Yavin, in case you are not familiar with the term, the use of Stormtrooper armor became irrelevant, and the Empire was all but in the past. But when Kylo Ren rose to power and started the First Order with Snoke and Grand Admiral Hux, new Stormtroopers that were trained from birth, known as the First Order Stormtroopers, were used in combat against the Resistance and other supporters of the New Republic. In a way, the First Order armor was a crossover of all the previous armies, as it had similar qualities to each the clone armor and Stormtrooper armor. Also, the flexibility of the armor was increased from former variants. The helmet had a bataplast finish and had both targeting as well as communication systems for the troopers. The helmets had a constant stream of data, which showed the amount of ammo left in their blasters, as well as ID for other troopers when they would walk by. And this was all, of course, stored in the lenses of their helmets. Later, an army consisting of a red variant of the First Order Stormtrooper, known as the Sith Troopers, was raised for the Final Order, but was quickly destroyed at the Battle of Exegol in 35 ABY. So the troopers over time basically just had small modifications here and there to their armor to best suit the Republic, Empire, and even First Order. Now, before I end the video, I actually want to give a quick shout out to my big 20-minute ranking video that is actually coming out this Sunday. And basically in that video, I explore my thoughts on each of the Star Wars films and where I would actually rank them if I was to put all of them next to each other. But anyway, that's it for this video. You can subscribe if you want to. I upload every Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I also post shorts on Saturday. But yeah, see ya.